Well, so tell me a bit and tell the audience how you first became interested in Lady Chatterley's Lover, and what made you think that there was a novel to be written about the novel Lady Chatterley's Lover. I mean, because it's not only about the novel, but then the novel's afterlife. So we'll actually get into it.
Thank you, Bill. It's traveling back to about 2015 when I knew I had a novel on my hands. And I had, as a teenager, I had loved Lady Chatterley. I think I went to it for a bit of sex education, as many did of my age, and probably didn't really find it, if I'm honest. But what I did find, and I remember it was my first real experience as a teenager of being profoundly moved by two characters. That surprised me. So there was that. It was a very memorable read from my teens. But that in itself wouldn't have been reason for me to go back to it as a writer now. Instead, what I discovered was something that really astonished me, and it was a telegram. In fact, I've got a little copy of it here. Yeah. It's very brief, and it was sent by the FBI to its Chicago field office. So it was sent from Washington HQ to the Washington field office in 1959, and it was about that very book you just held up, that copy of the Grove Press. And Barney Rossett, the publisher of Grove Press in 1959, actually even before the very famous English publication, Barney Rossett was on the case in New York and was determined to bring back the full original illicit Lawrence script. The FBI had long been tracking Barney Rossett. They had a huge dossier on Barney Rossett because they thought he was publishing un-American titles. They thought he was publishing iconoclasts. The FBI, when I came across this little telegram, I thought, oh my gosh. And this is it. It would be desirable to have a copy of this book that was published by Grove Press by Barney Rossett. In the event this book can be, only if, this book can be discreetly obtained without disclosing the Bureau's interest in this highly controversial book. And I thought, oh my goodness, here we are, 1959, in the midst of the Cold War, and the FBI is following Grove Press, yes, but particularly trying to get Grove Press through Lady Chatterley's Lover. They're trying to dismantle Grove Press or bring Grove Press down. So that set off all sorts of wheels in motion. And I thought, I then thought, I want to be able to convey to the reader the history of this novel from 1928, the creation of it, to the banning of it, and then most interestingly for me, the latter part of the 20th century, still trying to control the fate of this book, to suppress it, but with that's the wider American political context, and the way that very activity connected to the same time all sorts of covert activities going on by the FBI and being monitored, being very dark strategies, as we all know at the FBI at this time, and the way those two worlds might link up.
So there are a lot of what ifs. I mean, so tell us about sort of the what ifs that you began to think through once you came across this telegram. Obviously, it was a telegram to your imagination too, not only from Hoover to the Chicago field office, but to your imagination over in Brighton.
Yeah,
I believe. Right.
That's right. So so I then began to dig. I requested, through Freedom of Information, more FBI files on the subject. I spoke to FBI experts and to really get the kind of working methods of the time and to get as close in on that as I could. So, and meanwhile, on the British side, there are huge reams of literary detective work going on as well. But the what if that for me was pivotal, and is perhaps pivotal for the story itself, was I thought, right, we've got J. Edgar Hoover pursuing this book covertly for various means to various ends that sort of widen and widen as 1959 and 1960 roll on. But then I thought, I can't just go from D.H. Lawrence writing to J. Edgar Hoover. That would be absolute madness. So I need a bridging figure. I need somebody in the States to help me open up and reveal and to connect this world of creation with the world of suppression that Hoover represents. And I thought, who else in 1959, 1960 might have taken an interest in Lady Chatterley and what was happening to that book with Grove Press and the hearing and the controversy? Who else might have been following that controversy? And a hunch came to me one day. In fact, I think I might have been over at Charleston, the sister festival, when I was walking about. And I think I remember being in a certain tent at that festival and thinking, what about Jackie Kennedy? And Jackie Kennedy. And I thought, I have a hunch, Jackie Kennedy. One, she was hugely illiterate, as we know. She was a dedicated reader from the time she was young. She had been a reporter before she was married. She'd covered the coronation in England and for the Washington Herald Tribune. So she'd had a column. We know she went on to become an editor. The Kennedys themselves were perhaps the most literary couple, most literate couple ever to be in the White House. So I thought, that stayed with me. I then discovered, and to condense, I discovered that in 1962, April 1962, about 18 months after the famous obscenity trial in London, Jackie Kennedy, more or less buttonholed at a state function, the critic Lionel Trilling, got him up to a private party, ignored the rest of her sort of 6 or 8 guests, sat down for an hour and a half and said to Lionel Trilling, she just wanted to talk about D.H. Lawrence's novels. And I thought, there, my hunch was onto something. So in this novel, What If, I imagined we've got the book that you held up. It's just been released. The FBI's got evidence of it going through the US mails. At that time, it was considered obscenity. It still was obscenity in 1959. It was being shipped through the US mails. That shipping brought Barney Rossett into danger and Grove Press into danger. They confiscated copies all over the States. They impounded them. They were locked away in sort of vice squad locker rooms, and a hearing took place at the GPO in New York. And I thought, it's May 14th, 1959. What if Jackie Kennedy walked in and took a seat at the back of the public gallery? So no one knows he was in the public gallery that day, but there was quite a busy public gallery that day. There was no jury. It wasn't as widely reported, that hearing, as the London trial, but it was a key turning point. Barney Rossett lost that day eventually, but he went on to appeal. And the book you have in your hands shows the success of that eventual appeal. So that's my what if. Jackie Kennedy walks into the GPO, discreetly takes a back seat, and allows herself to be quietly interested in the fate of Lady Chatterley.